Hello, everyone's Forest Focus as Nottingham Forest look to make it 2 home wins in a row and 3 in total in the Premier League when they take on West Ham at the City Ground on Saturday. Joining to discuss that game in full and a little bit more, first of all, is Pete Blackburn. Pete, afternoon, how are you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad at all. Mikey Clarke, back with us. How are you?
Yeah, it's been a while. I'm great, thanks, Matt. Are you good?
I'm fine. You sound crystal clear after 4 years. You've bought a microphone, which is very good of you. So good to have you with us in your Venlo hoodie. You've always got to wear something different,
Absolutely.
so that's good. Third guest is Reds fan Ian Finch. Ian, good to have you back with us. How are you doing?
I'm all right, thank you. It's kids' half term, so if they burst in and start singing and dancing, I apologise.
I survived that last week, so yeah, mine are back. But it's Halloween tonight as well. Have you got to do trick or treating?
I hate Halloween, but I think my missus is going to go out with my daughter, and my boy's just going to stay and play PlayStation with his mates. So I'm just going to probably just drink beer and watch telly. So
that sounds like a plan. Your boy's too young for this, Pete, isn't he?
No, I think we're going to have our first attempt. He's dressed up in a sort of skeleton costume, and we carved a pumpkin earlier. So yeah, I think we'll have a little go.
Good luck with that. Right, Mikey, kick us off. General thoughts on the West Ham game and how you're feeling about it.
Yeah, really positive. I think I've not been on since the Leicester game, and I will say, watched all the fallout from that. I will say my mind's still in that away end. That was absolutely epic performance, and we battered them on and off the pitch, which was fantastic. So it's been an incredible season so far. So where I'm at right now is just full of optimism and positivity. I think if you look at West Ham, they've not had a great start to the season. They obviously beat Man United, but then again, who doesn't at the moment? So I think they are ripe for us to have a right go at them on Saturday. And I think the fixtures we've got, not just West Ham, but in the next couple of weeks, I can see some positive results from them. So yeah, in summary, Matt, I'm really looking forward to Saturday. I think the general buzz around the club at the moment is fantastic. The supporters are all positive, and I'm loving what we're doing this season. So yeah, really up for it.
Afternoon to everyone who's watching live. Good to have you with us. 170 people with us straight away, which is great. Good to have Oliver with us for the first time. Normally listens on Spotify. So hello to Oliver and everyone else. Like I say, how are you feeling about it, Ian? Are you wary of West Ham at all?
Probably a little bit more pessimistic than Mikey is. Only in the sense that I just worry that we're not scoring enough goals at the moment, and I think West Ham are probably more of a threat in front of goal than Palace were. Even though the Palace game was nervy at times, I took my daughter for only her second ever game, and she was like, when there was that 7 minutes added on, she was like going, "Why are you so nervous?" I said, "Because it's Forest, and this is what happens." And I think West Ham have got a couple of players that could probably do us a bit of damage, likes of Bowen, Souček. Some of it looks decent as well. So I just think you'll see from my team that I've selected later on that I'm looking for us to score more than 1 goal, because we've obviously only scored 3 all season at home. So if we get a couple of goals, I'm confident we could win. If it's only 1 goal, I'm a little bit worried that we might not get all 3 points.
West Ham, I've done the opposition preview already, Pete. It's out tomorrow. Out now if you're a channel member, but out tomorrow for everyone else. They sound quite inconsistent. Like they can turn up and turn it on, or they can be absolutely awful. How are you feeling about them?
I'm not feeling particularly concerned, to be honest. I thought they were very lucky to win last time out from what I saw. I thought United should have been out of sight before West Ham scored, and then a controversial penalty to win the game, obviously. I felt like an okay United performance and probably deserved a win on the balance of things. I think it's the first time West Ham have won 2 Premier League games in a row in this calendar year, and no doubt that's going to give them a bit of confidence. And clearly they'll be sort of stung by their start to the season, and Lopetegui will be looking for that reaction to continue. So we'll have to be wary and prepared. And under Nuno, you suspect we absolutely will be, and we always will be. But I don't fear them, and I don't think the lads will fear them either. I mean, fingers crossed we see a similarly impressive performance from Forest to last time they came to the City Ground, because I recall doing the post-match that night with you and Mark Southerns, Matt, and I mean we were struggling to choose who was man of the match for Forest, and it was a hell of occasion that I think we thought was going to turn the season and didn't quite deliver what we hoped. But yeah, I'm not desperately concerned about them. For me, I think it's exciting to see if we can if we can keep the run of performances and results going. Home hoodoo's been exercised with 3 points against Crystal Palace last Friday. I mean, Mikey sort of mentioned what it was like to be there, but my word, I sort of feel a little, maybe I'm sort of too confident, because I feel a little bit untouchable after, being in that remarkable away end and seeing the lads go to, what can be a real banana skin against a buoyant local rival and really delivering on the night. So personally feeling pretty optimistic and hopeful that we can come out with another good result.
We do go into it in a great place, Mikey. Chris Wood and Matt Sells nominated for Player of the Month for October. This is a league-wide, obviously, and Nuno Manager of the Month. You boys were both there in the away end as well, which probably does inflate how you're feeling a little bit. Are you expecting or hoping for a win? Because you sounded the most confident of the three lads there.
Certainly not expecting a win. I've followed Forest for many years, and football has this habit of kicking you in the teeth when you think things are going well. So not expecting a win. I don't think it's something that anybody should go there thinking we're going to turn any team over in this league. It's the hardest league in the world. And as Ian quite rightly points out, they've got a lot of weapons, do West Ham. A lot of internationals, a lot of players that can turn a game on the day, but so do we. So I think if you look at where we're at as a club right now, there's a lot of positivity. We're playing some good stuff. We've almost reshaped ourselves. We know our identity now. We know what we're about. We know how we're going to set up. We know how to win a football game at home and away. So I think it'll be a tight game. I think we have plenty of weapons on that pitch to turn it for us. But I also think, and I think somebody else said this at the start of the week, our bench has serious options on it now. So whilst they're lacking players like Kudos and a few others, I think they changed the goalkeeper at the weekend as well, which is interesting. I think we now have a formula to either push on to try and get a victory with Sousa and Jota and a few others, or to successfully defend a lead if we find ourselves 1 or 2-0 up. Going to that back five looks solid. There's other options we can bring on as well. So I think it will be a game that goes right to the wire, but I fancy us to nick it. But no, I'm not expecting us to win, and I won't be disappointed if we don't win. It's just I feel that we've made that step on. We've been talking about it for a couple of years now. When are we going to make that almost that jump into not constantly looking over our shoulders? And we've made such a good start to the season, and I know things can blow up, and I know it's Forest, but I can only judge what I've seen this season, and what I've seen so far has been excellent. So I go into the game full of optimism, full of positivity. I think if we get that first goal, I think it could be like what Pete was saying. We could put 2 or 3 past them like we did last season.
You watch loads of football through your working, and you watch loads of Premier League football. Are you surprised by how Forest are stacking up compared to some of these teams, relative to like good mid-table teams, not even looking at the promoted 3 and clubs that you might expect to struggle?
Not with the way we've been playing. I think we've thoroughly deserved the position we're in. I think just taking a look at the fixtures this weekend, we could go 3rd or 4th, couldn't we? Something ridiculous like that. If we got a win, and if Arsenal don't win, it's pretty crazy. But I think we're there on merit. I think we're playing well. I think the Fulham game was obviously a bit of a blip where Nuno probably didn't get his selection quite right. But yeah, we've now got a really good starting 11 that you can, when it comes to picking teams, I don't think anybody's teams are going to be that different, because it almost picks itself. But now we've got, like Mikey said, so many great players on the bench. You haven't just got substitutes, you've got starters and finishers. You've almost got a plan to your game that you know that these players are going to come on and make a major difference. The likes of Jota and Sousa and Nico. It's quality stuff. I'm loving it at the moment. I just hope it keeps going and going and going, because walking into that match of day office on Saturday was pretty special, because everybody in that room, their teams were lower than my team, which was pretty good.
Yeah, especially Gary Lineker as a Leicester fan. I'm sure that was the most fun of all of them. West Ham as well. Jackie notes that Kudos isn't available, which obviously helps us. Fulkrug isn't available as well, Pete. They're missing a few, but is it as much as ever about us, being positive and taking the game to them in the way we did more, second half at Leicester than even in the Palace game? We were not reticent, but we were a bit more conservative than we were even at Leicester.
Well, I think it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. they're a side who I think the stats suggest look to dominate slightly more than we do, although that's not particularly difficult given that we're right at the bottom of that particular league table. I think they're averaging 45% possession a game, and we're somewhere at 40-ish. So whether they will come and just leave us to try and break them down, which will probably be the sensible approach, I suppose, or whether there will be more opportunity for us to counter, then I'm not too sure. I'm not desperately sure who's going to play for them either. I mean, it feels like that's a little bit up in the air. I think they made 3 subs at half time last time out. Keepers changed, as Mikey mentioned. I mean, there's a lot of options in the squad, and none of them sort of staking a definitive claim for a place at the moment. So it's a hard one to really call how it's gonna play out. But I mean, the record this year for them, or this season, isn't something that we should fear. I think they concede a goal more on average every game than we do. They've kept 1 clean sheet all season. I mean, I think their sort of XG has them much higher up the table. But clearly you have to be ruthless at both ends of the pitch. And that's what we're starting to demonstrate now. We've been totally ruthless in the defensive side of the game. And seems like we're sort of building a little bit at the other end of the pitch. So, you know, a clean sheet and a 1-0 win again seems perfectly feasible to me. You know, Ian's right. They've got lots of talented players. I don't think it's really formed as a team yet this season. Kuda's missing as a big wild card threat that I don't think he's really sort of kicked off this season like you know he can, but still he's a huge threat, and so it's great that he's not playing. You know, massive threats elsewhere in the team. Everyone knows what Jared Bowen can do on his day, but you've seen what our defenders can do against, you know, the best available. We've pocketed Mo Salah and Sancho who was having a stormer. So I just feel so confident in what our players are capable of doing at the moment. So yeah, I think it's really hard to call how the game's going to play out. But what is nice is that it looks like we're starting to learn how to play different types of games. And this is a Forest side who can now look to take the game to the opposition like we did against Leicester, create chances, should have had more, albeit the chances that we did take against Leicester weren't exactly high value chances. They were all pretty stonking finishes in one way or another. But certainly we created the moments, and it's looking like we're building. And I think that, you know, this is a Forest team that can play in more than one way. So I'm hopeful regardless of how it plays out.
Pete sent me an interesting article the other week, which I never read until today. And then another Reds fan called Joe Need sent it to me as well. I think this is the same one. It's by a guy called David Seeger, who works for Opta, theanalyst.com. And there's just some interesting stats around how we're playing. We've only been losing 8% of the time this season in all our games in total minutes played, second only to Arsenal. And then this article compares us quite a lot to Everton, which is kind of interesting. I'll ask whether it stacks up or not. But only us and Everton have had the lowest possession in the league, us 40%, Everton 37%, which Pete referenced there. Only Everton had a lower passing accuracy than us as well, and fewer ball carries. We're at the bottom of all these stats. And we're at the bottom for pressing stats. Basically, we let the team pass it about 16 times before we press, both teams, 15.4 for us and 15.9 for Everton. And they just can't constantly compare us to Everton, but say we're doing it better, Mikey. Sort of can see some of it, but I think we're much better than Everton, aren't we? We're much more explosive, and I think we've got much more quality in the right areas of the pitch at both ends, I would say.
Explosive, that's the word, exactly. And I'm not bothered about some of these stats and where we are in the league. I'm not bothered if we have 30% possession or whether we don't press until they get into our final third. I couldn't care less. You know, I think if you look at the team bottom of the league, for example, who have 70% possession every single game but can't win a game of football, I know where I'd rather be. I think it's testament to Nuno and the team that he sets us up in a way that we don't feel we need to do anything we're maybe not that great at. So if we do sit back, if we do contain, if we do then explosively go through the third quicker than pretty much anyone, great, because it's working. And as Ian said, if the results go forwards, we could be in the top 4, which is absolutely mad. So don't fix it if it's not broken. So you can get stats that show you anything. There'll be stats that show us that we're absolutely ruthless with Chris Wood and the rest of them. There'll be stats that show that we put a lot of, dangerous through balls through when Morgan's playing, etc. And it can build the narrative that you want it to build. But for me, comparing us to Everton, I'm not having that. The only thing I see very similar is that we whack it forward and we don't try and pass out, which is pretty much what they do. Other than that, I think it's 2 very different football teams. We are incredibly explosive in that final third, whereas Everton ended up last game I watched him sticking a centre forward up front for the last 10 minutes.
Centre half, yeah.
Centre off, yeah, Michael Keane. I've not seen that for about 30 years. So I don't think you can compare one team to the rest, but that's what stats do. It gives you those comparisons. But what I do know is that the formula that we have at the moment is working. So let's just keep going. So wherever we are in any table, don't care because we're getting results.
Yeah, I think so. I'll bring you in and say one Peter for speed. Just on Southampton, I watched their game against Man City. They played some lovely stuff. It was all in their own half. They never got. They had one chance. It got them nowhere. Obviously, it's against Man City, but yeah, I think our football, in a sense, saying it's a throwback's a bit disrespectful, but it does buck the modern trend in a lot of ways. And I think it bucks it in a really good way. And I really like the way we're playing at the moment. I just thought it was interesting. Sorry, Pete, you wanted to come in there, and I'll go to Ian.
I was just going to say, I think I haven't done the digging, but I suspect that those stats aren't telling a great picture, because I think our style of play, as measured in those stats, is skewed somewhat by just how direct Sells is from goal kicks and having the ball back. So, and that's actually been quite often a successful approach for us, and that changes the picture quite a bit. So, the stats are obviously great, but I think I do think that just suggesting that we're a similar team to Everton because those particular stats look similar it doesn't really make a great deal of sense. And if you had, you could lay out an awful lot more stats that would show just how impressive our defence is, for example, and such like. I don't think the comparison really stands.
No, there were lots of other interesting ones just around also things like the amount of duels that we've won, second to Brentford, and then for overall, and I think aerial duels we were second to Man City. We're winning individual battles and players are performing at the top of the tree. Sells was doing well, and Milenkovic was just immense in terms of winning it, or his battles. The other interesting thing, Ian, among Opta and everyone else, loads of people predicted we'd finish 17th, but Opta now say we're going to finish 10th. On 49.8 points, 50 points, which would be great. Sound about right? Any thoughts on those stats? Any thoughts on us predicting we finish 10th now?
Well, 10th, we'd all have took that at the start of the season, wouldn't we? Would have bit your hand off for that. I mean, but it's like, why not push a bit further? It's like, if you could sneak into those Europa Conference places, wouldn't that be great? Would you need to finish there 8th? Is it to get into that, depending on other teams winning trophies and stuff?
Yeah, I think so. 5th could get you in the Champions League, just saying, but yeah.
Yeah, maybe that might be a bit of a push. Maybe the year after. But yeah, I just think anything that's not flapping around near the lower regions is just got to be, well, it's a massive upgrade, isn't it? And it's going to attract more and better players to come and join us. I know we had a bit of an issue in the summer about a certain couple of strikers probably deciding that they weren't sold on the project of fighting off relegation. If we had to finish in the top half of the table or thereabouts, you're going to be fighting them off to come and join us,
That's sliding doors moment now, isn't it, Ian? I guess when you think about it, I actually do still like Eddie Nketiah as a player, but Chris Wood might not have got the minutes and might not have got the goals.
Yeah, I wasn't that fussed about Nketiah. It was Jimenez at
Feyenoord, yeah.
Yeah, I quite fancied him, but he might take a little look at what's going on over here and then probably change his view. You never know. Or we might be in for somebody even better now. But I mean, Wood's doing a great job, but he's not going to go on forever, is he? And you do need that backup. So I'm still all out for another striker whenever we can get one.
We'll talk more about the West Ham, and we'll go to our lineups next. But just before we do, thank you very much to the Trent Navigation for all their support. Obviously, straight after the game on Saturday is the M&M gig. Just a final reminder of what you can get. Like I say, it's free entry, and it's pretty much straight after the match at the City Ground. Nuno is doing his press conference as we speak. So there was some team news doubts, obviously. We'll go to our lineups and we'll mention them. But, Chris Wood had ice on his foot after Leicester. I'm pretty confident he'll play. Elliot Anderson missed the open training session, apparently, and might well be a bit of a doubt. And obviously Morgan Gibbs-White is the other one, I think. So we'll keep our ears to ground for that, obviously. But we've done our lineups as normal. I'll start with Pete and Mikey's together because not necessarily unsurprisingly, they're both unchanged. That'll be Sells in goal, Aina Milenkovic, Murillo, Moreno at the back, Yates and Dominguez in midfield, Elanga, Anderson and Hudson-Odoi in behind Chris Wood. It was the easiest one. Pete, you put a lot of thought into these teams. Was this the easiest one that you've picked this season?
I'll tell you what, I didn't put an awful lot of thought into this one, that's for sure. Yeah, I mean, look, no doubt there'll be an awful lot more going on in Nuno's mind than there is in mine, and thank God for that. But it feels like a relatively simple one for me if everybody is fit. Obviously, a hint of concern around Anderson, but I think it's not the first time this season that he's been looked after behind the scenes, and he had a really difficult injury last season with a bad stress fracture in his back. I think they kept him out for 5 odd months or something along those lines. So he hasn't played an awful lot of football in his time either. So I can understand why they'd be being careful with him. But I'm hopeful that everyone in this lineup will be fit to go. And I look at the West Ham team, the sort of various teams that we might expect, and there's nothing in there that makes me think we need to do something desperately differently here. I don't think we need to be switching systems or personnel desperately, to be honest. And I'm confident that 11 that we've got can come out with a result. And it feels like a nice opportunity to be 3 games on the bounce with an unchanged team, because it just doesn't really come around altogether that often that's the case. And you look through the side and there's just a confidence about everything there, isn't there? The spine of the team has been so strong in these last few games. Defence is rock solid. I think West Ham are one of the highest foulers in the league, so I think Yates and Dominguez in there will be providing the sort of energy and know-how that we need to cope with that sort of aggression. Anderson in the 10's been an absolute revelation. He has to play there if he's fit right now, because obviously Gibbs White is highly unlikely to be starting, you'd think. And I can't see a reason to take the Wyben out, because even if they've not been at their best for every game this season, they just provide a constant threat, and it's a worry that the opposition have to bear in mind. So as far as I'm concerned, I can't see any major reason to be changing things. I think it's about us. This is an opportunity to keep growing, keep working on those sort of patterns between this starting 11, and then we've got as Mikey said, a brilliantly strong bench with lots of options to come on and do some further damage, or to help us see the game out, or whatever we need to do depending on the game state.
Interesting stat from WT Analysis, who I reference on Twitter a lot, on Elliot Anderson. He's never played this many minutes at this point of any season, and he's only 350 minutes, how many games that is, like 4 or something, away from his season high minutes in his career at this level. So you can see why Forest are being a little bit cautious with him, certainly. Mikey, I don't know if you've been on for any of the Morgan Gibbs White discussion. I don't think he'll be fit, I would say, but if he is, would you bring him back in, or would you just leave him on the bench, or not?
Yeah, I don't think he'll be fit either. Lindsay went to the open training session. He was there, but he was just stood on the side. I think he's out of his boot now, which is good. But by all accounts, I don't think he's trained. So it would be quite reckless, I think, to throw him back in, even if he's deemed that he can play a part. And I don't think we need to. I think Pete hit the nail on the head there. Is it 3 games unchanged, maybe, if we go with this? And there's a confidence that's flowing throughout that team. I was debating whether to maybe drop Anderson back and give Jota his first start, or maybe even Morgan did play. Does he come back in? I think when Morgan's fit, he plays. But I think, you've also got Ward-Prowse coming back next week as well. So that strengthens those midfield options. And I think I read another stat that said Nuno has done all but 1 of his allocated substitutions this season. So really utilising that, I think it's the second highest in the league, really utilising that bench. So even if this isn't working, he's shown, and I think I asked for this the other month, he's shown his willingness to change it. So I'm not saying it doesn't matter what we start, but if things need tweaking, he'll tweak it. And I trust him to do that. So I think Gibbs White plays if he's fit, but he's not going to be fit, I don't think. And I just think these guys deserve the chance to go again. I thought that second half at Leicester was exceptional. 3-1 absolutely flattered them. And if they take any of that confidence or momentum from that second half, it could be a very interesting game on Saturday. And I'm really looking forward to it. And I think Dominguez as well. Just a quick shout out for Dominguez. He's played everywhere, hasn't he? You know, they stick him on the wing. I remember last season he played on the wing against Man U. He played there pre-season as well. He's played in a 10. He's played in the 6. He's really important, I think, for Forest. He often instigates the press. He's very energetic, and his distribution is probably a lot better than what a lot of people think. And it allows Anderson to just do his thing and to just roam around and get in those pockets. So that's the way I'd start. Keep it the same, but don't be afraid to change it if needs be.
Almost 350 people watching, so do us a favor and hit like if you haven't already. It only takes a second. We'll go to Ian's team because it is slightly different. Only a couple of changes. Same back five, obviously. Yates and Anderson would be in midfield with Gibbs White as a 10 if he is available, and then it would be Dominguez in his place, and he's got Jota instead of Elanga with Hudson-Odoi and Wood in attack. Just talk us through your thinking there, Ian, and then we'll throw a couple of names around.
Yes, this is based on everybody being fit. If Gibbs White's not fit, then play Anderson in the 10 and bring Dominguez in. There's method to my madness in putting Jota in on that instead of Elanga, because when I was last on before the Fulham game, in my team, I dropped Sells and Yates, and they've gone on to have 3 unbelievable performances. So my view is if you drop Elanga, then he's going to end up he's going to go back to the best we saw of him from last season. Because he's against Leicester, I thought he was vastly improved on his previous performances, but he's still not, for me, taking players on and running at them. You tend to find he keeps he gets into a good position, then sort of tracks back and then plays the ball backwards. And I found that a little bit frustrating at the Palace game. And whenever Jota comes on, he's just like, he reminds me of that Tasmanian devil in the Bugs Bunny cartoons. He's just like, appears on the scene in like a flash of lightning, causes absolute chaos, and then leaves the scene again. So I'd just be interested to see what he could do from the start. And like I said earlier, I think we need more than the one goal. And I think Jota's more likely to have a pop shot at goal than Elanga is these days. So if he could help us into a healthy 2-0 lead or something, then you could bring on Elanga maybe 50, 60 minutes in once Jota's run himself into the ground. But that's my thinking. But I think that he'll end up going with the team that the other 2 boys have picked. But this is just my little dream team.
It is a fair point, Pete, around goals at home. Excuse me. It's the one area where we have slightly struggled. I guess we would hope that the Leicester attacking kind of verve that we saw would carry on from that one. I would assume.
Yeah, I mean, I think I said last time before the Crystal Palace game when we previewed that I guess the one area where remarkable start to the season clearly, but yeah, the one area that's sort of outstanding is being a little bit more ruthless and trying to get more goals than we have done, and particularly at home. I don't think we're miles off, and I think it's true that Jota brings a sort of an element of a chaos and willingness to strike from distance, and we've seen it pretty much every game that he's played off the bench. He's had that sort of moment where it's looked like he could have created a goal for himself. He sort of dragged one just wide against Leicester, didn't he? I remember a couple of sort of half volleys from the edge of the box. Obviously, in the Newcastle game that he started in the cup, he scored a belter. So I can totally understand the logic. I just sort of wonder whether a lot of those chances spring to him partly because of the game state. So he's coming on when everyone's a little bit more knackered. Things have changed quite a lot. We've brought on this incredible sort of phalanx of fresh players that we do now, where we just change everything, and it must be quite an intimidating threat because they come on as a group now, essentially perhaps in a couple of stages, but they come on knowing exactly what their roles are. It doesn't seem that we drop off whatsoever. So we continue to look a real threat, and I think it's a really great environment for then Jota to come on, bring some of the chaos, be willing to strike from distance and perhaps lose the ball or whatever. That's more difficult to do in the early stages of the game, I think. But I'm sort of talking myself into my own argument, I guess. Fundamentally, I believe in what Elanga can bring us when he's at his best. I don't think he's been at his best, but I also don't think he's been particularly poor, really. He's this season. he's had moments that would have changed our perceptions of him if somebody had been on the end of the crosses that he'd put in. And granted, there's not been an awful lot of them, but there was a devilish ball against Crystal Palace that easily could have resulted in a goal, and he'd have been an absolute hero if that had happened, just like he was against Liverpool when he found Hudson-Odoi with that brilliant pass. They're just such fine margins, aren't they? And for me, it's a case of arm round Elanga's shoulder. We know what a threat you can be. The opposition are dreadfully worried about you, no doubt. It's going to affect their line. The left back is going to be far less prepared to venture forward, I would imagine. And I think those things all help us to gain control and a foothold in the game. And aside from that, I think he's a player worth investing in, because when he's at his best, when he's attacking people down the outside or running through on goal, we know that he can cause havoc. And I don't think that that's something that he's lost. I think we've seen it in moments. But things have changed a little bit in terms of how teams are playing against us, and it takes a little bit of working out. But I think it's worth sticking for now, and we've got a sort of perfect solution for off the bench in Jota. But if he gets the shout, then I'll be backing him, because he's been fantastic. He's a lot of fun to watch, and I've got an awful lot of faith in what Nuno does.
I don't know. There's a thing here on Twitter from Ben Dinnery, who's an account who correlates Premier League injuries. I don't know if this is fresh, because Nuno, like I say, he's just done his press, and also James in the chat mentioned these players. But this is from Ben saying Nuno confirms Forest have some issues ahead of the West Ham game. The same after the period of the season. We'll have to assess them tomorrow. Wood, Gibbs White, Jota Silva, interestingly, and Anderson are thought to be in the group. None are believed to be too serious. So I think they'll all play, but just thought I'd bring that in. I've got a bit of a feeling that Taiwo is going to do something in this game. Mikey, I thought he looks a bit better. Obviously not starting him, but maybe last 15 minutes or something. Did he look a bit better to you off the bench on last Friday or not?
He looks lean, doesn't he? I have to say, this is not the first time I thought it. He looks really lean and sharp. And like I said before, Lindsay went to that training session and reported back the same and said he looks like he's got his yard back, his yard quick, and his burst when he pushes off. Looks like he's getting that back as well. So, yeah, we all remember what he did last season. He terrorised them, scored that first goal. We should have won that game more than 2-0 easily. So, yeah, he could well be. I was just laughing. Somebody in the comments, I think Mark put... Mikey's obviously forgotten we used to play Greg Halford up front. I hadn't forgotten that about sticking defenders up front. I just blanked it from my mind. Weirdly, he used to train as a defender, didn't he? And then play up front on a Saturday. Very strange. But luckily, we're not in that sphere of existence anymore. We have actually got strikers that are actually strikers. So, yeah, you're quite right, Matt. I think, again, it goes back to the impact on the bench as well. Taiwo can make that impact. And if we need something different in those last 20 minutes, I would have no hesitation whatsoever chucking him on. So, yeah, really good. And I think you're right about the injured players as well. I expect all of them to play. Bar Gibbs White, I don't expect he'll play, but I think they'll all feature at some stage. And I think it's just a case, as Pete said earlier, just managing somebody like Anderson that hasn't played this amount of minutes. He had those injuries back end of last season and pre-season. So for me, it's sensible. And for me, there's a lot of positivity for Saturday, and I'm a bit like you, Matt. I see it in groups of little groups of fixtures, and I know some of the ex-players that come on here say, "Oh no, it's game at a time," but I just think you have to be human to do that. So I look at Leicester before this, West Ham, Newcastle, Arsenal.
Where's your noise gone? You muted yourself, mate.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry, I muted myself.
Get used to this new microphone.
I know, I apologise. I was just going to say, I do look at groups of fixtures, and this little group of fixtures, I think, is a real opportunity. And the group afterwards is slightly more difficult, but you never know what's going to happen. But what I do know is Saturday's going to be a good day, and I really fancy us to turn them over.
You've got to go in a second. Have you got any other business before I let you go and do this back to front, Mikey?
Thank you. No, the only thing I was going to say is, again, back to the open training session. By all accounts, a few people went in. It was a great day. Really good from the club, that, especially at half term, to get the kids in. One observation my dad had, actually, was, when they break off and do the 7-a-sides, and they have like a little game, Milenkovic was marking Chris Wood. And my dad said that Chris Wood just didn't get a kick. But as soon as that flipped, he scored 2 goals. So I think that shows you how good Milenkovic is, even in training, and what a big difference that guy has made. I think it's an absolute bargain of the season getting him in for 12 million quid. He's an absolute beast, and he's, you know, the longer he can stay at Forest, the better, because I think he's bringing the best out of Murillo as well.
Very good, very good. Your dad twice told me at the weekend, I know, that my fantasy Premier League season was over because my Haaland triple captain bombs, and then looking here, I got 29 points more than him and went above him in the league. He was shouting from the top of the table for a while, but it's all going wrong, Tony.
Make sure you message him and rub it in, because he's quick to have a go at us for not doing very well, isn't he?
He is, isn't he? He is. He is very quick. Yeah. Right. We shall let you go, Mikey, and then speak to you soon. Are you going to boot yourself out, or am I turfing you out?
No, I'll boot myself out. Thanks, Pete. Thanks, Ian. Cheers, Matt. Thanks, guys.
No worries. Right. We'll go back to any other business shortly, but thank you very much to Home Move Estate Agents and Ben Sales for their support as ever. Like I say, you might bump into Ben at the West Ham game. He'll be wearing a Home Move Estate Agents hoodie, I think. So if you're looking to sell or buy a house, have a word with him, not during the match, although he probably wouldn't mind that. And the link to their website is in the description for this video, and they are, of course, 5-star rated on Google. Right.
Is his name really Ben Sales?
Yeah, it's legit, Ben. Well, I don't know. He might change it by default.
His co-worker, Ben Rent or something.
Full commitment to the bit there. Yeah, I think he might have changed his name. Right. Any other business? Anything you want to discuss, Ian, before we depart?
Forest-wise or other stuff?
Well, have you got something you want to discuss? Not anything really. Yeah,
not
politics.
I can promote my Happy Radio show Sunday afternoon, 4 till 6. DAB if you're lucky enough to live in the Northwest. If not, it's on the app and on the website, Happy Radio UK.
Excellent.
Top tunes.
Love
guaranteed.
Love it. I've got a few bits myself, but I'll throw it to Pete first. Anything from you, Pete?
Just one quick thing on the vein that you were going before Mikey left. On Taiwo, I sort of get the same feeling that you do, that his time to make a little impact might come soon, but more sort of particularly, it was just an absolute pleasure to see the away fans and the reaction that they have to Taiwo last Friday. I don't get to away games. This was a bit of a one-off of late for me, so it was eye-opening compared to the normal social media and sometimes our comments after Taiwo's had a difficult time off the bench or whatever. To see it was absolutely phenomenal. I mean, singing his name for what seemed like forever. And I agree. It looks like he's looking leaner and sharper. And I mean, if we can get him anywhere near what we know he's capable of, my word, that'd be an awesome asset for us. So fingers crossed and onwards and upwards.
Excellent. The only things from me, shout out to Nuno and the club as well for the open training day. But Nuno for the press conference, I don't know if people have seen it, with Warriors United, I think it is, a team of kids with Down syndrome. And Nuno did a press conference with them. Lovely questions, including his favourite pizza, which was my favourite one, obviously. But it just showed what a lovely bloke he is. And sometimes we forget. I said on Twitter, like, we all moan, including myself, about why you're playing Niakate at left back and all that kind of stuff. But it's important to remind ourselves that he is a good bloke, and lots of people at the club seem to love him, obviously, and within the game. So yeah, well done for that. And a real random thing on Twitter that popped up, a chap called David Bullin tweeted to say that he was walking his dog or doing a jog or something in Abu Dhabi, listening to this, and then he bumped into a guy called Jay Vincent, who was at the exact same time listening to the same episode of this podcast, and they exchanged a little U-Reds in the Middle East, which was nice and incredibly random. So shout out to Jay and David and anyone else who listens to this. Yeah, pretty mad.
Global. We are global.
We are global. We certainly are. Right. We shall leave it there. A shorter one because, the team kind of picks itself mostly for the West Ham game and not too much else to discuss, certainly not lawsuits. So, right. If you have enjoyed this, do us a favour, hit like, hit subscribe. You can become a channel member and give us a lovely review on iTunes and Spotify. We shall be back with an opposition preview tomorrow, and then post-match, I think it'll be about 7:30 or 8 p.m. 8 p.m, I think, so I'm going to the game. So I might see you there at the Trent Navigation. Pete's careering into middle age and setting his ways and goes to a different pre-match venue, I think. But say hello to Pete if you see him at the game. I take it you're not
allowed to mention it, though.
You are?
Not allowed to mention the location there.
No, unless they want to sponsor this pub as a secondary sponsor of this podcast. No. Ian, are you at the game?
I should be watching it from the northwest of England. I can't tell you where.
Oh, of course, yes, due to work commitments, no doubt. Yeah, of course. Are you a bit gutted? You probably don't get to go to many games, do you, because of work?
Not as many as I'd like. It's one of those ones where you have to sort of plan and look ahead, sort of 6 weeks in advance, and see which ones you're going to be able to get to. I still get to see all the games in full, one way or another. But yeah, I don't get to go as often as I'd like, and also it's quite nice to be able to take my daughter to the games, but she's in a different membership tier to me. So by the time they get down to her level, the chance of getting two together is quite rare. You know.
How old is she?
She's 9. In fact, when we're at the Palace game, right? You know when Chris Wood scored and they started singing that Chrissy Wood song, the Casey and the Sunshine Band one. I sort of turned to her and she just looked at me and I went, "What?" And she went, Chrissy Wood. It's a bit cringe." I thought, there you go. That's the view of the 9-year-old.
Oh, well, at least she's getting into it. That's good. I'm taking my son to the Newcastle for his first game since we were in the Championship, basically. I took him when he was too young. So, yeah, looking forward to that. He's 8. It should be good. I assume you're already dreaming of taking your boy to the City Ground, Pete.
Yeah, I have been for a good while, to be fair. Yeah, it's one of those things that feels like a big old life moment, doesn't it? So I think it'll be a little while because where I sit, it can be a bit fruity. I'm not desperately sure I want to take him right now, but yeah, in time, hopefully.
Hopefully so. We'll be in the family stand, so it should be a bit more chilled out there for that one. Yeah, not where you are, Pete, as well. Certainly. Right, we'll be back, like I say, with Lewis. Mark from West Ham away tomorrow, then Lewis and Chris Aylmer on Saturday evening for the post-match show. So yeah, Ian, thank you very much.
No problem.
Pete Blackburn, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me. Pleasure as always.
As always, indeed. Have a good day, everyone. If we don't see you tomorrow, we shall see you soon.